you wear a uniform out here, you wear patches, you carry, and your job is to like service your community, like you mentioned, your customers. Are you ever like feel like you're in danger, or like wearing the patches on your shoulder make you a target?
Man, I think that in 2025, and I don't know if this is just me being naive, I feel like things are much better now than they were when I first got here in 2020. The sentiment towards law enforcement in Portland seemed like it was palpable at the time in terms of people having a negative view of law enforcement. And by proxy, private security caught a lot of that, right? But on top of that, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the importance of understanding how you speak to people, understanding what you're saying, how you're saying it. In 2020, 2021, 2022, there were two high-profile cases. One where one of our security brethren actually lost his life. His name was Sir Charles Jones. He was working down at the riverfront and actually got shot 9 times. And then I believe in 2021 or 2022, there was a private security guard that was working at the Lowe's. But that security guard, he got into an argument with someone who was shoplifting pallets, like a wooden pallet.
I remember that.
$3 worth of pallets. They end up going back and forth. He blocks the guy in with his vehicle. They are yelling, screaming. He pepper sprays the guy revs his vehicle, and the security guard shoots him, I think 6 or 7 times, kills that guy. In both of those situations, very apparent how important the personal ability to de-escalate situations is. And so like when you ask, am I afraid? I'm not afraid of being in a situation where something can happen to me. I'm more afraid, I think I've always been more afraid of responding inappropriately. And to that fact, like I've made it a point to get into self-defense. I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6'2", 260 pounds. I'm not really ever in situations where I feel that someone's testing me. But I don't want to ever be the kind of person that overly relies on the firearm. Number one, I don't want to have to always think about that as being the first option. Number two, in an area like Portland, I don't know how that's going to be looked at, even if it's a situation where I'm justified. And so I've spent the last 6 or 7 months really focusing on personal self-defense. I've signed up with a jiu-jitsu school, Team Quest, out in Gresham. I've been going out there anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week and just really trying to get myself acclimated to being in a, I don't want to say a hand-to-hand situation, but just getting more comfortable with physically being able to control a situation. I really think that it's important for private security guards to feel comfortable protecting themselves in any way, shape, or form without having to rely on less than lethal means or definitely lethal means. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just based on those two situations and things that I've dealt with over the past 5 years. I don't think that a lot of security guards think about the litigious aspect of what we do. We have a very narrow scope of authority. Some would say that we have no authority, right? But when you're working, over here, we've got a Nordstrom's, we've got a Starbucks back here. When you're working on these locations or at these locations, you have the physical right, just like any other person, to protect yourself or to protect the third party. But there's limitations to that, right? I think that a lot of security guards think, hey, if I'm in a situation where someone has pushed me to this point, I can do whatever I have to. If I gotta beat this person's ass, then so be it. And that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
There's a level of restraint that comes with being in the military. There's a certain level of restraint that comes with being a law enforcement officer. There's a certain level of restraint that comes from being a private citizen, and that extends to being a security guard. So, I had never really thought about that until I started seeing these court cases where private security guards are finding themselves, being prosecuted for a simple shoving match between 2 people on the street. And it's like, how do I keep myself out of that situation? And I think that a large part of people being comfortable de-escalating potentially aggressive or violent situations comes from them being confident. And right now with DPSST, with our governing board, there's nothing that they do in terms of training private security guards on how to feel comfortable, confident, and protecting themselves. And so that bleeds over to their inability to de-escalate situations because there's no training for it, right? So, signing up with this jiu-jitsu school, like it's been an absolute game changer in just my ability to feel comfortable and confident when on the streets things start to ramp up. The person that's in front of me, the homeless guy, he's yelling, he's screaming, he's balling up his fist. I understand now time and space. I understand blading, distance, right? All the little things that are like preparatory to keeping you in a much safer position. It's not about being tougher than that person or being able to handle that person, but just understanding like spatial awareness and distance and how to fall if I had to fall, how to grapple someone, maintain control of someone, pressure. I understand the dangers of a choke now, like all of those things, and that comes from education. I really wish that from the state level, they would do more to train individual private security guards, but ultimately we're the ones who are going to be responsible for anything that we get involved in, so we have to be responsible for that training.